Psalm 78. And this is God saying, he told me to tell you, remember me, remember me, remember God, remember me, my people. Turn this off. It's too bright. Okay. My people, hear my teaching. Listen to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth with a parable. I will utter hidden things from the old, things we have heard and known, things our ancestors has told us. We will not hide them from other descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power, and the wonders he has done. He decreed statutes of Jacob and established the law in Israel, which he commanded our ancestors to teach their children, so the next generation would know them, even the children yet to be born, and they in turn would tell their children. Then he would put their trust in God and would not forget his deeds, but will keep his commands. They would not be like their ancestors, a stubborn and rebellious generation, whose hearts were not loyal to God, whose spirits were not faithful to him. The men of Ephraim, though armed with bows, turned back on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant and refused to live by his law. They forgot what he had done, the wonders he had shown them. He did miracles in the sight of their ancestors, in the land of Egypt, in the region of Zoan. He divided the sea and led them through. He made water stand up like a wall. He guided them with a cloud by day and with light from the fire all night. He split the rocks in the wilderness and gave them water as abundant as seas. He brought streams out of a rocky crag and made water flow down like rivers. But they continued to sin against him, rebelling in the wilderness against the Most High. They willfully put God to the test by demanding the food they craved. They spoke against God. They said, can God really spread a table in the wilderness? True, he struck the rock and water gushed out. Streams flowed abundantly. But can he also give us bread? Can he supply meat for his people? When the Lord heard them, he was furious. His fire broke out against Jacob, and his wrath rose against Israel. For they did not believe in God or trust in his deliverance, yet he gave and commanded the skies above and opened the doors of heaven. He rained down manna for the people to eat. He gave them the grain of heaven. Human beings ate the bread of angels. He sent them all the food they could eat. He let loose the east wind from the heavens, and by the power made the south wind blow. He rained meat down on them like dust, birds like sand on the seashore. He made them come down inside their camp, all around their tent. They ate till they were gorged. He had given them what they craved. But before they turned from what they craved, even while the food was still in their mouths, God's anger rose against them. He put to death the sturdiest among them, cutting down the young men of Israel. In spite of all this, they kept sinning. In spite of his wonders, they did not believe. So he ended their days in futility and their years in terror. Whenever God slew them, they would seek him. They eagerly turned to him again. They remembered that God was their rock, that God Most High was their Redeemer. But then they would flatter him with their mouth, lying to him with their tongues. Their hearts were not loyal to him, but were not faithful to his covenant. Yet he was merciful. He forgave their iniquities and did not destroy them. Time after time, he restrained his anger and did not stir up his full wrath. He remembered that they were but flesh, a passing breeze that does not return. How often they rebelled against him in the wilderness and grieved him in the wasteland. Again and again they put God to the test. They vexed the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his power, the day he redeemed them from the oppressor, the day he displayed his signs in Egypt, his wonders in the reign of Zoan. He turned their river into blood. They could not drink from their streams. He sent swarms of flies that devoured them and frogs that devastated them. He gave their crops to the grasshopper, their produce to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail and their sycamore figs with sleet. He gave over the cattle to the hail, their livestock to bolts of lightning. He unleashed against them his hot anger, his wrath, indignation, and hostility, a band of destroying angels. He prepared a path for his anger. He did not spare them from death, but gave them over to the plague. He struck down all the firstborn of Egypt, the first fruits of manhood in the tents of Ham. But he brought his people out like a flock. He led them like sheep through the wilderness. He guided them safely, so they were unafraid. But the sea engulfed their enemies. And so he brought them to the border of his holy land, the hill country his right hand had taken. He drove out nations before them and allotted their lands to them as an inheritance. He settled their tribes of Israel in their homes, but they put God to the test and rebelled against the Most High. They did not keep his statutes. Like their ancestors, they were disloyal and faithless, as unreliable as a faulty bow. They angered him with their high places. They aroused his jealousy with their idols. Stick a pin in that. I'm coming back to it. When God heard them, he was furious. He rejected Israel completely. He abandoned the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent he had set up among humans. He sent the dark out of his might into captivity, his splendor into the hands of the enemy. He gave his people over to the sword. He was furious with his inheritance. Fire consumed their young men, and their young women had no wedding songs. Their priests were put to the sword, and their widows could not weep. Then the Lord awoke as from sleep, as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. He beat back his enemies. He put them to everlasting shame. Then he rejected the tents of Joseph. He did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, but he chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loved. He built his sanctuary like the heights, like the earth that is established forever. He chose David, his servant, and took him from the sheep pens, from tending the sheep. He brought him to the shepherd of his people, Jacob, on Israel in his inheritance. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart. With skillful hands, he led them. I hope you go back and read Psalm 78 and remember who God is. God says, remember me? Read Psalm 78. Okay, I want to go ahead and say this because I was a part of it. April of this year, I joined a Greek organization that was supposed to be a Christian organization, etc., etc. And you know how oftentimes the Lord will put me in a position to see for myself, and I saw for myself, and I am no longer a part of that organization. Let me say something to you. Remember I was talking about the idols and different things? I want you to listen carefully to this scripture. Well, first, let me ask you a question. Why is the now in am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God significant in Galatians 1:10? I want you to, and I have Galatians 1:10 in this book, ironically, when I was talking about gluttony. Okay, the pastor's wife is talking about gluttony, one of the things that she struggles with. And a lot of times I'm going to mirror the pastor's wife. Okay. Galatians 1:10, one version reads, now, am I trying to win the favor of men or of God? Do I seek to please men? If I were still seeking popularity with men, I should not be a bondservant of Christ, the Messiah. Whatever we are doing, whether it be food, whether it be a Greek organization, whether it be your job where you're the president, or whatever it is, make sure it is not your now idol. Your now idol might change. Your now idol later may be being on technology too much, your phone and all that kind of stuff. Your now idol might be popularity and fame. Your now idol might be later on down the road money, status. That's why I believe the word now is in Galatians 1:10. Why is now? Why is the now in am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Why is it significant? In every if you look at the Amplified, if you look at the King James Version, whatever version you look at, now is there. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to know, my neighbors, you need to know what your now idol might be, because that now idol might put you in hell. So who am I? I am a servant. I am no longer the president of that chapter. That chapter to me was more Greek than it was Christian. Listen, whatever your now idol may be, you need to. I also want to highlight the movie The Forge. It is out now. It's on Netflix. You saw where the guy, the main character, one of the main characters was saying he doesn't golf like he used to. He used to golf all the time. That was his idol. The boy, the main character in there, was playing video games and all of that, and he got rid of his video games. Whatever your idol is, of course, and it could be food. I'm still heavy, but I'm not in gluttony anymore. Anyway, let's see. Okay, invitation. Let's keep it moving. All right, I want to go ahead and tell you the salvation plan is here. If you have not been saved, the time is now. Don't wait. The time is now. Hear the gospel of Christ. Believe God raised Jesus from the dead. Repent of your past sins. Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and get baptized. Get baptized like Jesus, okay? If you are saved, if you're not saved, regardless, you want to know what being set apart, because we as Christians, we are set apart. You want to know what being set apart looks like. Let me tell you, it looks like in Psalm 1:1-3 tells what the blessed, those who were saved. 4-6 is those who are not blessed. Okay. 1-3. Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the seat of the scornful. Let me start over because I think I know. So I always mess up. Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of the water. And in his season, I'm going to have to do that one over. Psalm 1. Blessed is a man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Number 4, the ungodly are not so, but are like the shaft which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the congregation. Let me read 5 again. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Okay? I pretty much know it by heart. Sometimes I get it scrambled up. But read it, study it, apply it to your life.